Self-Made Project podcast. We are back in effect. Super excited to bring this back to the table now that we have a clear understanding of where we're going with this whole thing. The ideal thing of this podcast, right, is to get everybody that's out there that's been supporting us since day one a full introduction and understanding of what the Self-Made Project's all about, right? The Self-Made Project, training facilities, apparel, fitness, health. I mean, every aspect, entrepreneurship. And who's behind the brand, right? The movement, the self-made movement. I told everybody, this is a lot bigger than I at this point. Who is the actual leading force of all the franchises, the movement, the trainers, the athletes, everything? I mean, people want to know who you guys are. All my franchise owners, my personal trainers, and also our athletes. And then every so often we'll bring outside influencers or people that we see as part of the Self-Made Project, even though they're not in the health and fitness space. So for us to launch this thing, I think the best part about it is you guys just opened up your Self-Made Training Facility location in Hollywood, right? And we're gonna get in depth of that, and I want you guys not to hold back whatsoever.
Are you sure?
Yeah, 100%. Like brutally honest, dude. And it's kind of scary because I understand. I know what we went through. I know what you guys went through. And ultimately, like how this all started. How did you, one, come across the Self-Made brand? Two, what motivated you to get into the brand and actually open up your own franchise, which we know is not a cheap, investment. Yeah. The other aspect is not just financial investment. We're talking emotionally, physically, mentally, spiritually. I mean, seriously, we probably had to come to Jesus Talks a couple of times, right?
A lot of times.
A lot of times. So I want people to know my people, our people, right? Because ultimately, you guys are leading the pack in Hollywood, California, Los Angeles, our very first open location in Los Angeles County. That's a huge step. I mean, it's something that we don't take lightly, and we understand you guys are doing an amazing job thus far. But before we get to that part, who is Chris Alcala? Who is Kate Alcala, right? Who are you guys? Like, where do you guys come from? What is it all about? Where did it all start with you with the entrepreneurship? Also, what setbacks and hurdles have you guys overcame, right? Because I know your story. Yep. I know you have a story. So ultimately, first and foremost, my franchise owners, Hollywood, how do you guys feel thus far?
We feel great. I mean, as of now, we are rocking it. I mean, our momentum can't be stopped as of now.
Yeah, I just think coming into this, you have an idea of opening a gym and having a badass gym that's all red and black where champions are self-made. But I think the true meaning of what running a gym and a self-made is, it hit us straight in the face. It's not just walking in and looking at the gym. It's operations of running a retail store. I think talking to trainers and just actually building those relationships so that those people want to stay with us. And I think the biggest thing that we're facing right now is just building a really good community so that nothing can break it, because any negativity coming into our facility can taint the whole facility. So when we're hiring trainers, we're really strategically partnering with them and kind of getting to know them more, and more than just the fitness aspect of it.
Totally. And that's one thing, we're in a people business. We're driven and drove by people. Like, our success comes from the success of our personal trainers. As everybody knows, we're not a membership gym. We're full-on private training facility, independent contractors, entrepreneurship, schooling, education, leadership in many, many aspects, right? So getting into the leadership aspect, you guys are a self-made movement. Literally, you guys are part of the movement. And not only that, just given your story, we'll start with you, Chris, right? From the day I met you, one, how did you come across myself, the brand, and whatnot? And then also pre-self-made, tell us your story. Where did you come from? What did you do prior to this? And then also, what have you overcame due to that?
Definitely, yeah. So I was born and raised in Burbank, California, played football, did everything about that, and once I got out of high school, I need to make a change. I was partying too much, just living too much. And I think the biggest thing for me was making a change in the positive direction. And at that point, college just wasn't in my cards. I didn't see it in my future. So I joined the Coast Guard, and I spent about 6.5 years in the Coast Guard. Best time of my life. It taught me a lot of morals and values of how to run my business and how to operate my life on a daily basis. After that time, I I got into the personal training industry. I worked for a corporate gym, not going to name their name, but I learned the ins and outs of personal training, and I love to sell personal training. I hate to say sell personal training, but I believe in it, because the pure fact is it saved my life, spending about 2 years at a unknown gym, I was diagnosed with leukemia. So at that time, my life was literally turned upside down. And my wife and I were together for only a month. And at that point, when I got that call, it was honestly like my whole body just almost shut down. The first person that I called after a month of dating was Katie. So it really, it put life into perspective. It's not just looking good and being that, because I had a six-pack, I had it all. She fell in love with me because of that, but
she was like, yo, what's sexy matter? What's up? What's your name, homeboy?
But I just think like diving deeper into it and seeing like, hey, it's not just about looking good, it's about checking your blood, just being healthy, just going to the doctor every once in a while just to see. I felt great. I had six-pack, but internally I was dying. I had stage 3 leukemia, and it literally scared the shit out of me, The first thing I asked when I went into the doctors, I said, hey, am I going to die? The doctor, she kind of made light out of it, and she said, you're going to die one day, but not today.
Yeah.
So it really put into perspective, like, hey, just nurture what you have. And ever since then, like, I was in the hospital for, I think, 13 days. She didn't leave my side once. And I told her, I think on like the 10th day, I said, I'm going to marry you. I said, you've stuck with me. And then after that, our house almost burned down in a wildfire. So she was with me there too. So it's just kind of the progression of that changed my life dramatically. I was actually in the process of getting hired with LAPD. I was diagnosed with leukemia, and that kind of just threw my whole trajectory of life off. Looking back on it, I'm really thankful, I guess, for getting cancer, because it changed my life. I kind of just started, I was following you before, and I just love the movement, what you're about, the family atmosphere. And I hit you up and joined the real estate team. It was really, really good positive energy, and just the way you told me to market myself, I didn't believe it. I was like, you're full of shit, man. What are you talking about?
You coming into my office with this whole pitch, and then you had one gentleman that was trying to charge you how much a month to try to teach you the marketing aspect?
Oh yeah, he wanted to charge me like $3,000 a month just to help me market and this and that and coach me up.
Yeah.
Within 10 minutes of sitting in your office, you were like, do this.
Yeah.
And I was like, it's not that easy. You're like, no, it is. And I didn't have a big following. I don't have a big following now, but it's just organically growing it. And just like you said, just get on camera, just talk a little bit and share what you're going through so other people can relate to it.
100%.
And just doing that has built me up so much. And we were actually at a real estate meeting, the whole team, and I said, hey, what's up with Self-Made in Burbank?
Yeah.
And you were like, oh, it's open. So we kind of looked in Burbank, did all that, and couldn't find it, but ended up finding that spot in Hollywood. And I'm actually very thankful that the process was grueling so that we could get to that point and open one in Hollywood,
Now let's backtrack a little bit with cancer, right? And you guys are only dating a month.
Yeah.
I mean, you, Katie, have to be an individual that obviously, what was going through your mind at that point?
I was at work when I got the call, so I instantly started bawling. Because, a big part of us meeting, it took us a while. We kept looking at each other at the gym, but nothing ever happened. He never would approach me, and I was like giving him the look, like, don't come over here.
That's awesome.
So one day he followed me up the stairs. I accidentally dropped my bottle cap, and he swooped it up, and he was like, hello, I'm Christopher. We talked that day that we met for an hour at the gym that he used to work at, the corporate gym. And we learned this later on, we both went into our cars after we talked, and we both screamed at the top of our lungs.
It's like a little kid, dude.
We both knew at that moment that we were going to marry each other.
Yeah.
So once he got cancer a month in, there was no question. We were already like in love.
Yeah, totally.
So there was no question about leaving his side or anything like
And there's
that.
always like those people that doubt you. You know, she had some friends that were like, "You're really gonna stay with him? He has cancer now."
Yeah.
Totally.
Like now, like if I see those people, I'm like, "Hey,
look at us now.
Yeah.
And that's the thing, I can completely empathize with that aspect. You know, I just met my fiance a year ago. We just celebrated our year anniversary, and after the first date, I knew right off the bat. And from there, it's inseparable. Now we're engaged, so I totally get where you're saying it can happen that way. And it's I'm glad that you're saying that, because if once you know, right? Don't let something divert you away from that, even if it's just cancer. Well, not just cancer, but cancer, right?
Yeah.
And with all that said and done, right? Staying by his side, going through the whole motions, and then obviously your house almost burning down, right? Would you have to say those hurdles and obstacles, given the love that is there, the respect is there, only made you stronger?
Oh, without those hurdles that we previously went through, and then going through the hurdles of opening the Self-Made in Hollywood, we wouldn't have been half as strong.
Yeah. So would you be safe to say, is using that as fuel, right?
Yeah.
Having, instead of being the victim mentality, which most of our, unfortunately, most of our population has that victim mentality, where, you know, we say self-made and self-made movement, self-made family. But in all reality, is those things is what will make you stronger, and you don't know in what arena is going to make you stronger. But obviously, it made you stronger in this this location, because you guys went through hell and back building your location out. Talk about, all right, let's discuss the opening of the location. First, let's backtrack. I always go on tangent. My ADHD just gets the best of me sometimes, right? So, like with you, what's your story? What can people understand of who you are and what they can expect from you as well?
So I grew up in Georgia, BFE, Georgia. I grew up very poor. So my whole life has been a struggle financially, and but I was always an athlete. That was always my scapegoat. Like I always, my whole life, played sports. And then after high school, I was like, I don't know if I don't want to go to college. I can't afford to go to college. So I instantly moved to Florida. I partied a little bit, and then I moved back home, and I realized I don't want to be like these people here. I don't want to live a mundane life. I always knew that I was different than everybody else, but I never thought that this would be my life today. But then I moved back, when I moved back home and realized I was unhappy. I was depressed. I was pale and skinny and just watching TV all the time. And then I was like, one day I was just like, I'm leaving. So I moved out here. I was homeless for 2 weeks. I slept in my car.
I can relate there too.
I know you can. So I slept in my car. It was really hard. I worked a lot. I was a waitress for 15 years.
No way.
Yeah, I was in customer service, and that goes, I think it helps with the facility now.
Well,
but
it's funny that you mentioned that because it does. And you have to understand, I always tell people, like, every job I ever had prior to the success we have now has led me to the position I'm in today. If I didn't do retail sales, I wouldn't know how to design a full retail shop. If I didn't do construction, I wouldn't know the difference of what manual labor is, like true hard work versus backbreaking versus sitting at a computer and being creative, right? And also my very first sales job, which taught me commissions, was working at Sunglass Hut selling, you know, if I sold the Maui gyms, I got an extra 3% commission versus the Arnett's that, you know, were a lot cheaper. So I focused on learning everything about Maui gyms to sell X, to be able to make X, right? So with you living out of your car and working as a waitress for 15 years, that customer service, like, you know, if you gave your absolutely best service to that table, you're going to get a good tip. And that's what you lived off of. How did you get out of living out of your car? Because I know that was very difficult for me. I did 8 months and you did 2 weeks, which is still, I mean, any night living in a car is a nightmare.
Especially as a woman in Los
100%.
Angeles. Yeah, it was really scary. I mean, I was this close to moving back to Tennessee. But something that kept me going was, I don't want to be a laughingstock when I go home. I don't want to be like, oh, she didn't make it. You know, like.
Now look at you.
It's rad. I didn't know this about you, so that's pretty awesome. Congratulations.
I'm not a very open person about things like that unless I know you.
And that's the thing. That's why I wanted to create this podcast and launch it. And and none of this is scripted. We have no questions. We're going off the cuff. I'm feeding off of your guys' energy, because that's the best way I operate and work. And hearing this, now you were already on a pedestal, both of you guys, right? Because I knew your story because of the real estate. You worked with me for a while. But knowing yours now, even more so, that's why they're doing what they're doing. That's why you never gave up. That's why you just took it in the chin, smiled, and still showed up, still made shit happen.
Sure.
Because let's dive in, because everybody thinks, obviously through social media and Instagram, everybody thinks a picture perfect life, right?
Your highlight reel.
My highlight reel. And I get it. Look, I don't want to be posting about anything negative. If I post about anything negative that has ever happened to me in my life, it's something that I overcame. So sometimes, like, the shit that we're going through right now, wait to see what happens 5 years from now. Yep. You're going to hear about it. So now that we have the ability to actually, look at the reasoning for all this is, one, to get to know who these guys are, who the franchise owners are, who our athletes are, who our trainers are, get to know people more on a personal level, because we're all people. We're no different than our audience by no means whatsoever. We all have a story, but some of us are a little bit more timid. For me, I've used it, just word of advice for you, because you can inspire so many women, like so many women and men, okay? But ideally, especially like you said, living in your car as a female, you can only imagine. I was worried about getting raped and mugged and who knows what, because we were sleeping in an alleyway, right? So I made sure I slept right next to somewhat of a residential, so if we screamed loud enough, they would hear us. So I can only imagine what you're going through, right? So, but if you're more vocal, this is going to allow you to do that. And I'm glad that you said something, because in all reality, like, iron sharpens iron, right? Yeah. We really want to encourage other people that are just like us. Just because they see the highlight reel and they see the success and they see what we're doing in a positive manner, it doesn't mean we didn't overcome anything. Right. So leverage that, because for me, first time hearing it, I'm inspired by you, and at this point, it's like I can only imagine what other people are going to do, especially within your guys' facility, right? Yep. And then you obviously overcoming cancer. I mean, that was just one of the hurdles, right? Then having, you just had recently back surgery, and again, no one would even know, like. I got this guy walking crooked, doing interviews as I'm watching you guys build Hollywood, and then you keeping your husband completely on a support system like no other. I really I admire you guys both for that, because I'm a big observer of everybody. Sometimes I'll just sit back and watch, and I'll listen and I'll apply. You guys have done a phenomenal job. Now with Self-Made Hollywood open and operating, you're seeing the success of your hard work. But let's talk about. Definitely. The actual truth. Yeah. How hard was it to open up this location?
Well, first of all, I came home from work one day. I'm in the kitchen, just putting away my things, and Christopher comes in hot. He's like, "We're gonna open a Self-Made." So just so you know, like, I'm getting the money and we're opening it. And I turned around and I was like, "We're what?" Excuse me.
Oh, wow.
So that started out cool.
Yeah. How'd you feel about that?
It kind of took me back a little bit, because
totally.
I mean, I knew he wanted to be a police officer, and then I knew obviously he was doing real estate with you. So it was a lot of what's going on, like what's going to be our future as a couple. Yeah. So he showed me your Instagram and he showed me the facility, and I was like, okay, I mean, sure. I guess.
I guess in an aspect, like, I had to sell her in it, because I was sold in my mind. I was like, we're gonna do this. Yeah. And when I get on something, like, I'm like a bloodhound, like, I'm not getting off of it.
Totally.
So I had to go through a lot of hurdles myself to even get this into conversations, like funding 10, 15 conversations to even entertain this, getting my wife on board. I can't do this without my wife, It brings such a different aspect to me, because I have this vision and how I see things, but she also has a different vision and how she sees things from a female perspective. Totally. So it's really good to kind of go back and forth, because I'm just like right here. Yeah. So all this is blocked out to me. So when she's seeing out there for me, and it actually staples down to me why we're so successful together, because we have two different views that come together.
Yeah, we balance each other out. Like, he's the dreamer and all that, and I'm the more like analytical, logical, realistic.
Yeah. And that's gonna give you guys so much success, right? Because it does balance you guys out, and it allows you guys to see two different perspectives and two different views, and eventually you come up with a solution to every of the situations that might arise, right? So we obviously, you guys are trying to find a place in Burbank. I remember that was a hurdle in itself. And then we finally allocated a location in Hollywood.
Yeah.
Pasadena too.
So Pasadena,
yeah. We went through. I put out about 20 letter of intents to lease buildings, Burbank, Glendale, Pasadena, and this was about 9.5 months of just searching, trying to keep my morale up, trying to come home and say like, hey, it's gonna be good. Just off a whim, I was like, hey, looking on the internet, and oh, this is a cool building in Hollywood. Let's check it out. I did not want to go to Hollywood at all.
Well, to add to it, this was during COVID.
Yeah.
So
people don't. So we need to announce that. And I probably would refrain from using that word because we don't want to get flagged. So we'll just do 2020. So that 2020 means
Yeah.
That. So because we don't want to get flagged. It's crazy how censorship has gone, right? And that just blows me away. But 2020 was a major setback.
Yeah.
The unknown. People were literally gyms closing down, filing bankruptcy, and we were thriving. We were moving forward and doing the aspects. And even during that, obviously putting all the letters of intent. What was it about the Hollywood location that just sealed the deal for you both? Because look at financially, that's a big step. You're one of our largest locations in the sense of when it comes to financial input on it, right? But you obviously saw something, and of course, I trusted your guys' judgment, and we've had multiple conversations. But I saw it, and I was like, yeah, it's gold.
Yeah.
But you guys saw it before me, and I saw it was gold. Why?
So just kind of looking throughout the whole time of 2020, we found buildings, but I just wasn't sold on it, and I was so just hungry to open up something that I was like, let's just do this. She was like, no, like let's wait, let's find something that works. Like I said, I went and looked at the property by myself, just driving around, and I was sold. It was graffitied, it was messed up, but just the vision of where it was, we're right across the street from BuzzFeed, we're just in the heart of Hollywood.
Yeah.
It sold me, so I called my broker right then. I said, let's get this. I'm not taking no for an answer.
Yeah.
So that was another probably like 3 months of just negotiating with them.
Yeah.
It's crazy because people don't see the negotiations and all that stuff, and then finally set down a lease, and then getting permits.
Yep.
With 2020 getting permits, it probably added another 2-3 months to that. So
easily.
Just navigating all of that was probably one of our toughest times. And then in the middle, it's just building out, the cost of goods. People don't realize like inflation's hitting us, so the cost of goods are going up. So in a sense, yes, our facility is probably the most expensive in build out, but it's due to the times and because we have 2 buildings, so it's they're 2 physical addresses. Each, for reference, each building had 4 permits. So I had 8 total permits going out this whole construction time.
And if anybody knows about permits, it's a nightmare, especially dealing with certain cities, and Los Angeles unfortunately being one of them, and given that everybody's working from home 2020, so imagine having to get the paperwork and all that submitted and done was a nightmare.
Yeah.
But even to emphasize on that, right, knowing exactly what you guys want to, how'd you guys stay married?
Barely.
Right. It's like, what he hit you with, hey, we're opening up a location, you're like, holy, what the heck, okay. Sometimes, it's better to ask for forgiveness and permission.
Seriously.
I don't highly advise it out there, but hey, look, it happened and it worked. But how did this question your marriage? Did this, like, where were you guys at personally?
There were days where I would look at him and I said, is this going to happen?
Yeah.
Like, is this ever going to be real?
Yeah.
Yeah. And I just think because she didn't really see all the back end where she saw it, but she wasn't out there doing it. And because she was working, and
Totally.
supporting us in that aspect, so I couldn't have done this without her in that aspect. But just going through that process, it really tried us. It's probably not too good to say, but I would literally come home and I would get in the shower, and there's some days I just started crying in the shower. I was like, what the fuck am I gonna do?
Yeah.
And I'm a shit talker, so I shit talk to myself. I was like, no, get up, come on, keep going.
Yeah.
So actually, after one of those cries in the shower, I got on my laptop and I was like, all right, there you go, and went for it, drove out, and my mind just clicked, and I was like, all right, now it's time to get all that negative attitude out, because negativity can just run you straight to the ground. Now, in your head and just people around you, like we've firsthand had a lot of haters in this whole process, you know.
Yeah.
And it's not maybe because they don't hate us, maybe they just don't like the success that we're doing, or they don't see the ins and outs that we had to go through. Like, this has made our marriage so much stronger because it was another test that we just got through, you know.
Yeah.
And life's just full of tests. It's how you navigate them and stay on track and hold fast.
Yeah,
you know?
totally. And having that self-made, you know, mindset, it's gonna be done. And even then, like you saying that, it's like so funny. It's like a lot of people think we're related, you know. So a lot of people, when I repost this shit, they think it's, oh my god, I didn't know you were in Oceanside. That was this weekend.
Yeah.
I was like, nah, that's Chris. I was like, what? It was like, no, that's my boy Chris. And so, but it's funny because we have so many similarities. That same self-talk, I talked about that multiple times in different podcasts where, you know, I've had to look at myself in the mirror and talk to myself, like, what the F are you going to do about it, Miguel? What are you going to do about it? And then boom, it just put into action. Procrastination is death. You apply, right? And you, given that, you know, obviously you didn't know he was probably crying in the shower.
No.
So now that you do know, how do you feel about that? Like, what was in your mind at that point of, you know, the hurdles are there, you know, the headaches are there. And the reason I want to emphasize on this is because being an entrepreneur, right, and being a boss in a sense, or having, you're responsible now for what, you're at 22, 23 trainers. Mm-hmm. You're going to get to about 50 trainers. You're responsible, both of you guys are responsible to lead these guys and to show them the self-made way. And then from there, that responsibility comes with the athletes, the consumer that hires these trainers, and then the families that come in. Like me personally, right, I hold a lot of weight on my shoulders. I have you guys, you guys invested in the concept that we brought up, but we collectively are building this. I'm responsible for, you know, 40 plus franchises, X amount of locations, and now with these other ventures, like, we're responsible for a lot of people. So you as a franchisee now, how do you feel about that?
Well, knowing that he was crying in the shower obviously hurts as his wife. But what hurt more to see him before self-made was to know that he couldn't become a police officer, was to know that he felt useless in his everyday life because he didn't have a purpose. Yeah. And that really sucked as a wife to see.
Wow.
So him crying in the shower, it sucks, but that sucked more, to be honest. And we obviously went through hard times throughout the process, but seeing him he picked himself up a lot of the time, and he just went and did it even when he was in back pain, even when he never thought that this thing was going to actually happen because of 2020. But it made me, as his wife, I was like, oh, he's sexy.
Yeah.
He's doing it.
Yeah.
You know, like, it made me see him in a different light.
Yeah. And that's, you know, I'm glad you said that again, because, you know, people need to understand that life could be a lot worse.
Yeah.
Right? And that's what's beautiful about telling our stories, that we've been in some pretty dark spots. 100%. Like, I mean, look, you're facing and possibly dying from cancer. You didn't know the outcome. You know, you're cancer free now, correct?
Correct.
But you didn't know that was going to happen. And that right there was probably the lowest you've ever been, physically, mentally, spiritually, and whatnot. But again, you talked yourself out of that. You living out of your car, same thing. You know, we are faced with some pivotal decisions that we have to make. And if we become a victim, that doesn't happen. That's not the self-made way. And that's why I'm glad we're able to share this story, because your social media is fucking awesome. Like, you guys are crushing it, killing it. I'm super proud of you guys. We've seen a huge dynamic change in that location, and it's only getting better and greater. But again, the backstory to this stuff is, okay, now you see why. Yeah. Now we see the ins and outs of this operation and why we elected you guys as our franchise owners. Yeah. Like, you go through a process. I want to just sell it just to anybody. Like, I want to be able to have, I mean, leaders within leaders, and everybody eats at this point, right? So now going back to a little bit on the process of the construction. Yeah. Okay. we had some major delays, not just because of permits. Obviously, funding was an issue at one point. Then the delay of the construction was an issue at one point, to the point where you actually ended up building out your location. And obviously, I would hate to say that out loud because we're responsible to help navigate that. But you, again, took leadership and ran it and finished your job, and you subbed everything out. Once the completed project was done, how did you feel?
It's crazy because I still look at the facility and I'm like, it's not done. Like, there's so many more things that I want to do to it, because I have this vision. Like, I see Self-Made, I'm like, no, I want to add these little touches. But everybody that comes in our facility, they're like, man, this is awesome, you know. So it reassures in us, like, okay, we did something good, but we're always continuing to try to see where we can add value in other aspects, you know, because the facility's cool. It's badass. There's two buildings, 3 different workout areas. But there's always something that we can make better, or just give somebody that experience when they come into a Self-Made. Just leave an imprint on their brain. You know?
Awesome. And that's the thing, is that's what Self-Made's all about. It's about creating such a culture and such a vibe that no one can compare this to anything else. We are definitely very unique, and I'm not just speaking for ourselves. We hear it left and right, but as we progress this project forward, right? And if you had to do this all over again, would you guys do it?
Let's do it. Yeah, let's do it.
The reason I ask, these guys are going to own multiple locations. I already know. We've already discussed it. We got great things coming. We have a retail store that's going to be completely built out here by the grand opening. Let's talk about the grand opening.
Yeah.
Do we have an estimated date for grand opening? What would that be?
We're looking at April 30th.
Yep.
Okay, April 30th. And if people wanted to attend our grand opening, how can they get a hold of you guys?
Yeah, so we're just at SMTF Hollywood, or you can just find our phone number on there, text us, call us. We're always answering. I just think the biggest thing for us is bringing the community in, and just kind of painting our picture to the community of what we do. And I think the biggest thing that has helped us is by having Isaac with Bold Cut Media come on board and actually tell our story. Because we can shoot it through phones and all this, but it may not come out as crisp. When he's in the lab making these videos, making us look good. So in a sense, like, we couldn't do this without him as well.
Yeah, totally. And it's a team effort. Like, it's a team effort. We couldn't do it with our vendors. We couldn't do it without our trainers, without our athletes. Talk about having a company, right? Your guys' company, your guys' franchise, where it builds other people. Financially, emotionally, spiritually, and physically. People don't understand. We don't own gyms. We it's just the vehicle we happen to be driving. We build people. And to touch on that with your trainers, what can your trainers, right, that are current, and also any trainers that are looking to join, trainers or coaches, that means every aspect of fitness, bodybuilding, powerlifting, calisthenics, weight management, nutrition coaches, MMA coaches, boxing coaches, whatever. Anybody out there looking, what can these trainers get from you? Like, what can they expect from you if they came on board as Self-Made Training Facility approved independent contractors?
I think just the biggest thing is trusting in the process. I say this to her all the time. She's like, stop saying that. Yeah. But I truly believe in trusting the process. Like, we've had multiple conversations, like, just continue on. Go on this path and it will pay off, And if that's anything that I could say to personal trainers, is trust the process. Like, we're here to help you grow a 6-figure business. We have all the tools and resources at our facility to make you the best personal trainer in Los Angeles. I guarantee you that. But on top of that, we have Isaac with Bold Cut Media, and he's making customized videos for them as they come on board to make them feel more a part of our family and spread it to their family so they know what they're doing as well.
What about you, Kate?
Yeah, we get called bosses a lot, and we always tell them we're not your boss. We're business partners.
Yes, 100.
When it comes to Christopher and I, we want to help people.
Yeah.
We don't want, of course, making money is great, but our number one goal is to help you.
Perfect.
That's it.
And by helping them, what do you mean by helping them?
Get off the ground. Even if you're a new trainer, we'll walk you through how to sell people. We'll walk you through how to use all these tools that Self-Made has to offer.
Yeah.
We will give you dinner if you can't afford to eat dinner. That's just how we are as people.
And that's the thing with these trainers. You guys have to understand out there that we really truly care about your guys' success. That's what, as a company, I think having these podcasts, people are going to be able to really understand that. Because look, in all reality, right, trainers and coaches that have been doing this for years they only had two aspects. Working for a big box gym where you got devalued financially, physically, emotionally, in all aspects, devalued period, because you go from making minimum wage to maybe $20 to then, or doing your own place, and now you have this large overhead, and now you're just working to keep the lights on versus really working because you're passionate and you love helping people, right? So we now took those two ideas and combined it to one and made it to where we did the value versus the income. And giving these trainers the ability to really make 100% of their earnings, and having a very low overhead to be able to run and operate and co-market and co-brand with us, because they're our partners in business. Like you said, they're your partners in business. So I'm looking forward to seeing your guys' location grow. And the way I want to end our podcast, every podcast, right, since it is the Self-Made Project, I want you to take the time and right off the cuff, whatever this comes to from the heart and what this means to you. But what does self-made mean to you, Chris?
Self-made for me means it's not about, I didn't have daddy's money, I don't have this, I don't have that. We're all self-made if we really want to be. If you choose a path, yes, you're going to get help and people are going to help you if you're willing to accept the help. But being self-made to me means not giving up and going through with your intentions.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah, for me, I feel self-made as personally. Yeah. I mean, coming from what I came from to making it to where I am now. I mean, being self-made to me is never giving up, not being a victim of life, and looking at yourself in the mirror and getting it together, even if you feel like shit. You're self-made.
100%. I love that. And both of them are there's no right or wrong answer to that, and I love to hear that because I'm partnered with the right people. We're partners in business. We have vested interest in each other, not just financially, but emotionally and spiritually, because I went through what you guys went through with your location. We were all involved, and at some point, you feel like throwing in the towel. In all reality, I mean, we're getting punched left and right from certain partnership going south to inventory to whatever it may be, to also the unknown.
Yeah.
Because we had no idea when we were going to open up.
Yeah.
So you guys obviously live by the brand. You guys are the brand. We're all drinking the self-made Kool-Aid, which tastes amazing, by the way.
It sure does.
And it sure does, right? That Kool-Aid's amazing. So, again, thank you guys for joining our podcast. Before we end, how can people get a hold of you? And also, let's go ahead and let people know, obviously, the grand opening, make sure you close with that again. And having also, do you guys are doing any type of open gyms? Are you guys having anything coming up in the near future that you want to let people know?
Yeah, so we actually, this weekend, the 12th and the 13th, we're having two events. The Limitless Sports Academy is on the 12th, so that's an open gym to bring the kids in, kind of build that community with the kids and have their parents come in. And it's Drip IV Therapy's 1-year anniversary. So they're going to be serving rosé to 21 and over.
Yeah. And
doing some drip IV therapy for people. And just bringing them in there is super cool because they bring a light aspect to our business. And then on the 13th as well, we're having a Ving Vodka. They're doing a giveaway, and they asked us to partner up with them. And it's just pretty cool. We have just a little event for them, and it's going to be an open gym. So 2 open gyms in one weekend, and then our grand opening on the 30th, that's going to be a banger. We're going to have a big party.
Yeah, so make sure you guys follow the links below. We'll give you guys all the information. Thank you guys for coming. I do appreciate your story. Amazing story. I learned a lot from you guys just today, from both of you, and again, and it inspires me to continue working with you guys. And at the end of the day, we're all self-made as long as we take one step over the other.
Yep.
Guys, check out the links below. Thank you guys for tuning in, and stay tuned as we announce our next podcast guest here at the Self-Made Project. Where champions are
Self-made.
Oh, hey!
There you go.